Hey, Paul here, Music Villa in Bozeman, Montana, and I came down to the Taylor factory today. Lucky enough to catch Andy and the fine video room here at Taylor. Andy, you guys have done so many cool things. You've changed a lot of the models over the years. You're doing amazing stuff. But today, this is something is mind-blowing. This is what I would call a breakthrough in guitars.
Well,
you're launching it at NAMM. Tell us what's going on. What is this?
So it's still a guitar, which is good.
That is good.
I still like that it's a guitar. It still has 6 strings. It's still made of wood, which I like. It's got a lot of things that we as guitar players like about it. In this case, I'm holding what we call a Builder's Edition K14. Now the Builder's Edition is it's a unique piece in a lot of ways. But I could sum it up as when you're going to build a better guitar, you're going to do it in one of 2 ways. You either make it feel better or you make it sound better.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, it's going to be one of those 2 things.
And you guys have already made it feel better.
We've made it feel better, but I'm trying to go even further.
Yes.
So this guitar, we've seen this before. That feels really nice.
Yep.
I like that. Makes the guitar feel comfy, like a Strat or something. It's got this really cool edge treatment where all the corners of the guitar aren't really there anymore. They've all been taken back a notch, so the whole thing becomes a bit more touchable.
Yep.
Even farther, I started taking away more of the problem area of the guitar. Usually with a cutaway guitar, you end up with a big chunk of body right here that doesn't really help you. A lot of times people put a Strat button right there, and that's in the way. But the real thing here is by scooping the back of the guitar out and then doing a cutaway in the face on the front of the guitar, I can get my hand all the way to the end of the fingerboard and still get my thumb around the neck.
And it looks nice.
Yeah, it looks like it's meant to be that way.
It does.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of a page stolen out of the electric guitar making book, but adapted into a more traditional environment. So now, rather than, say, using my elbow and having my thumb on this side of the fingerboard to play up high,
right,
I can get to the end of the fingerboard, still get my thumb around the neck. So all of that is a cool thing. It has a slightly different finish that we're putting on this model. We call it silent satin.
Okay.
It's not a totally gloss finish, but it's not an ordinary satin finish that can sound like swishy when your clothes hit it.
Yep.
This one is meant to not make squeaky sounds.
Gotcha.
When you're in a recording environment in front of a microphone.
Speaking of recording environment, I mean, hearing this thing is unreal. I keep thinking of recording this guitar, putting a mic in front of it.
Yeah.
And I'm getting excited here because all those features are so amazing, but the sound of this is incredible, and what you've done on the inside it's changing. Is it safe to say it's changing guitars? I mean, this is something hasn't been changed in guitars in a long time.
This guitar is kind of the first of sort of a new way to build an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
It isn't the same. It's not business as usual. This isn't forward shifted, reverse shifted, scalloped, non-scalloped, refined, advanced. None of those things that we do to a guitar top to try and wring out the last little bit.
Yep.
This is an entirely different thought from the ground up. It's not
safe to say it's a whole new bracing design.
It's not an X-brace guitar at all, actually. Yep. It's this new idea that we call V-class bracing. Okay. We're starting to introduce it amongst a few different models, notably the 914 and the PS14, the Koa Series 14 guitars. Over time, you'll see more and more guitars built this way. And what led me to do this was when I looked at, say, even our own 800 series guitars, there was a certain point when I came to almost like a mental cul-de-sac. Mm-hmm. You go, wow, we just put a huge amount of effort into wringing every last little bit. And now if I want to build an even better guitar than that, this system that we've been working with, this X-brace system, this isn't going to cut it. I need to kind of blow it up and start all over again, come at this from a different angle. Because there's a real basic problem that we have with guitars, in that if you look at it as a string holder, you need a great deal of strength to generate sustain. It's pretty simple. You take something really solid like a Les Paul or a solid body, stretch a string across it, you hit the string, the note lasts forever. The flip side of that, volume comes from flexibility. We know this. You hit a drum, or imagine a banjo where the strings are sitting on a flexible drum head. You can produce a huge amount of volume. Volume is air pressure. So you displace all this air, and that hits us as powerful. But the note lasts like this long because you're doing it with a flexible thing.
Right.
So you have this kind of this compromise between needing to make something strong so the notes will last a long time, and needing to make it flexible so you can make good volume. So what I did was I came up with a bracing pattern that sort of separates those two ideas, where they're more independent. And that gives you a ton of control to make notes that last a long time, notes that have good volume, and really good balance over the whole register.
The balance is incredible.
Yeah,
and the intonation, I guess. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Intonation is incredible. You were doing some stuff up on the top there, and it was clearer and more pleasing to the ear than I've ever heard on a guitar.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but as guitar makers and players, we think intonation comes from compensation and the strings stretching to hit the frets and things like that. And that's true, but that really is only half of the story. The other half is that the notes we actually play are fundamentally wrong. They're just not totally correct.
Right.
And then guitars, you introduce these not quite correct notes into a guitar body, and it'll give you its own interpretation of that note, which also isn't totally correct. So when I realized, man, I can build a guitar that has good volume and good sustain, and when I had control, then, gee, we can make notes that intonate better.
Can you play some of that up to the top there? We should.
Yeah.
I mean, this is...
It has to keep in mind the scale length, the saddle, the nut, everything is exactly the same.
Right.
Classic
Yeah, you
Taylor.
haven't offset anything or done any kind of changes.
No, that is exactly the way it's always been.
You're getting this incredible intonation because the way you've braced this guitar and what's happening, the way the notes are coming out of the guitar.
It has to do with the way the notes actually set a guitar in motion.
Okay.
This one is moving air in a totally different way. So if I played high on the fingerboard to illustrate it, every note in that E major will hit us as perfectly in tune. Normally I'd stretch tune for a G major. Or this C major. Every note on this guitar will hit us as perfectly in tune.
Yeah.
The actual pitches haven't changed, but the way they hit our eardrums is. It's totally different. So everywhere on the guitar's register, you end up with power and volume and projection and notes that play in better tune than they've ever played before. And because it's done with the way the guitar vibrates and not changing scale lengths or wiggly frets or any of the things people have tried.
Which is, it's almost hard to even understand that, but it is the neatest thing ever, because I know a lot of people, they try to change the nut and do different things. There's all kinds of things to try to get it to even out better, but you're basically doing that from the way you're bracing it.
Yeah, and because of that, if you're playing in an alternate tuning, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're a quarter tone flat, it doesn't matter.
Right.
None of it matters, because this compensation, it's not a different temperament system or anything like that.
Right.
It's just that the guitar is doing a better job producing the notes we play. It's that simple.
You've solved a couple 100-year-old problem of, you've found a formula. I mean, it's kind of funny to think back, because, I don't know, years down the road, people might look back and go, I mean, how could we have lived like that? It was so long without that. Why didn't someone figure that out before?
But you can't know what you need to know until you've learned it, right?
True.
And so in our case, well, we have the privilege of learning what electric guitars are like, and what archtop guitars are like, and what flat top guitars, and mandolins, and violins, and synthesizers, and all these things. None of those existed 150 years ago.
Yeah.
So we were privileged because we live in an era where we get to know more about the way instruments work.
Well,
and we can apply that learning into something totally different and totally new that hopefully suits the needs of a musician.
Yeah, well, I know it's a privilege to have you building guitars and here at Taylor, and it's really neat to see. This is something that I believe is very, I mean, it's changing guitars. It's just really cool. It's been fun to see it. We got to see under the hood earlier, and it's really neat.
It's a good day.
Any last minute things you want to say about this? I guess we're launching these at NAMM. You guys?
Yep, we're releasing them at NAMM this year, and we'll see these guitars and other models in the future.
Okay.
And my real hope there is that people will pick this guitar up, play it, and simply enjoy it.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to make creative, wonderful music and express themselves.
Yeah.
So if we can do a better job giving them an instrument that enables that endeavor, that's our goal.
It's exciting. It's
That's
exciting. I'm thrilled to see this, and you know, thank you for watching. Thank you, Andy. Thanks all the people at Taylor for taking the time to do this for us. And let's take it out with a song.
You bet.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks, Andy.